Representative John Lewis, one of the longest serving congressmen, an icon in DC, in Congress, announced some pretty sad news, apparently being diagnosed very recently with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which is an extremely serious stage of cancer at an extremely serious stage of that cancer as well. He put out a press release, and we're gonna read just part of that. Representative John Lewis said, "I have been in some kind of fight for freedom, equality, basic human rights for nearly my entire life. I have never faced a fight quite like the one I have now. This month, in a routine medical visit and subsequent tests, doctors discovered stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This diagnosis has been reconfirmed. While I am clear-eyed about the prognosis, doctors have told me that recent medical advances have made this type of cancer treatable in many cases, that treatment options are no longer as debilitating as they once were, and that I have a fighting chance." And all of that is true, but it is still a very serious form of cancer. And so a lot of people obviously, they feel terrible for him and his family to face something like this. Just a dark day.
Yeah, but I am going with what his doctors are saying and what he's saying, and the fact that if anybody's a fighter, it's this man.
He's been fighting for a little while.
Yeah, so I'm like praying for him and his family, and you hope that he can beat this.
Exactly. He said further to his constituents, "Being a representative in Congress is the honor of a lifetime. I will return to Washington in coming days to continue our work and begin my treatment plan, which will occur over the next several weeks. I may miss a few votes during this period, but with God's grace, I'll be back on the front lines soon." You're allowed to miss a few votes.
Yeah.
Lots of people miss tons of votes without the stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Exactly. Yeah. Some people show up and pretend and just don't do anything.
Exactly. Feel free to take a few days off, honestly, at this point. Now, obviously, a lot of people, when this came out over the weekend, they tweeted support for him. There were some great speeches and things like that. I'm just gonna note one. President Barack Obama tweeted, "If there's one thing I love about Representative John Lewis, it's his incomparable will to fight. I know he's got a lot more of that left in him. Praying for you, my friend." And it's gotta be on the mind of literally everyone. Well, a lot of people across America, but definitely people in Congress, because on the Democratic side, I mean, he's long been considered one of like the big moral figureheads of the Democratic Party for literally decades.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to give people, we can't go totally into his history and everything like that. And he's still very much, he's dealing with it.
There's a lot of history, yeah.
There's a lot of history, but I just want to read just a little bit for people who might not be familiar with where he got his start and why he is such a big figure today. As a college student, he was a leader in the civil rights movement. He was one of the first freedom riders, activists who staged mobile protests on segregated buses across interstate lines. He participated in numerous sit-ins and worked to register black voters. For these and other civil rights efforts, he was beaten. His skull was cracked by a policeman during the historic Bloody Sunday March and jailed. His protests, including up until very recently, have led to him being arrested more than 40 times. And he's led, there was a gun control sit-in that he led last year, I believe it was. It was very recently, so he is maintaining that and has for literally decades now. Yeah.
And like I think just more than almost anybody is like completely evolved with the times, like ready to take on what the new issue is and jump into it and be focused on it. And I just think he's great, and I think that we are not worthy, and I say that very often about Representative Lewis. But yeah, just like thinking about him and hope that he can beat this.
Yeah, and very recently, I mean, he was like, you can't say for sure, but hypothetically was very, very important in this impeachment push, because it's just like less than 3 months ago now, he gave a speech. He was one of the holdouts for a long time, and he gave a speech. We covered it on the show. It was a powerful speech where what I liked about it was that he talked about impeachment the way I wish everyone did. That was about the Constitution, the obligation of the House to provide a check on the president when they get out of control. He talked about the substance of it, not just, I don't know, 2020 might hurt us a little bit. And then like New York Times yesterday was like, will it embolden Trump? I talk about the substance. What was actually done, what the consequences for those crimes is supposed to be. And he did that because, beyond almost anything else, he is an incredibly substantive man who understands the connection between our values and our politics, has for longer than we have been alive, almost together. Yeah, and so I appreciate that, and it definitely did seem to matter. I feel like that was sort of the thing that broke the dam.
I will always say this about Congressman Lewis and other members of like the CBC, but I think that recently, as far as like the presidential election, a lot of people have been upset with them for not supporting, I guess, what like the younger crowd's view of progress is. And not even not supporting it, just pushing for other people as well. And I think that one thing for me when it comes to this man, when it comes to Congressman Lewis, is that he has more experience. His perspective in life is so much more profound and so different than anything I can ever experience and I can ever imagine. He's been through much, he's fought for much more. Thankfully, I will never have the opportunity to fight for as much as he's fought for because fighting for that right, it gives me the opportunity to be here.
We will be lucky if we do not have to fight that way.
I won't. It's just, and I think
things are trending in a dark direction, but we'll see. Hopefully not.
But when someone like him says something, even if I don't immediately agree, I listen.
Yeah.
I want to hear his perspective.
And I feel that way about a few people. Like there are people who I don't agree with on some fundamental things, and I don't have to.
But I want to learn from. I'm like, listen, you obviously know something I don't, and we may end. But I want to hear what he has to say about everything.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't need to respect a person. You don't have to agree with them on literally everything. And like when I saw this sort of news, it's always the event where it's like, I really hope that on social media, some people that I technically agree with more don't like there's this sort of self-destructive, pointless, contrarian need to like, oh, John Lewis voted some way I didn't like, so screw his decades and decades of activism.
But like when John Lewis, because of those decades, when John Lewis votes some way that you don't like, listen, you may still come away not agreeing.
Yeah.
But I think
don't
that we
write
should always
people off if you don't agree.
Like, well, why? Like you should always come at it like from somebody like this with like looking at the opportunity to understand or to learn.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Thank you for watching this clip from The Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members-only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.